A few years ago, Digital Metrology released the TraceBoss software, and it was a hit because it allowed people to finally start to connect the information they were seeing with the numbers to the actual surface they were producing. Now, along the way, TraceBoss users became more interested in seeing things better and analyzing their surfaces further, and there was a great demand to add crosshatch to TraceBoss. And based on that, we released TraceBoss plus crosshatch. The same philosophy was installed into TraceBoss Plus. We were going to give a basic set of parameters and a very simple interface where you could simply measure and see things that you haven't been seeing before. Even the settings were made to be very simple. We could choose a length of a measurement, we could choose a measuring system, and basically everything was in that one place. This was a great success. However, we're at a tipping point now. There are people moving beyond these locked down simple capabilities and wanting more power out of the TraceBoss platform. More of a production-friendly version of the software that allows for more configuration and even further control of locking things down. And with that in mind, Digital Metrology is now pleased to launch the TracebossPro package. TracebossPro takes all of our learnings from the two other TraceBoss platforms and gives us now the ability to have many more capabilities and even much more control. For example, right now I'm showing a measurement on a head deck, and this might be the data we're interested in, and you'll notice immediately there are different parameters being displayed. Well, if we switch back to the familiar world of a cylinder bore, now we have a more common layout that we would see with a cylinder bore and cylinder bore parameters. So let's grab a cylinder bore data set and drag it in, and we'll see TracebossPro acting just like TraceBoss Plus. But the things that are new that make it very, very powerful are things that we've been asked to provide. For example, a quick selection between different kinds of settings, say between the cylinder bore or a head deck, where we have different scaling, a different hint picture, the ability to instantly reconnect to a gauge that might have powered down or became unplugged perhaps. So TraceBoss Pro gives us this better user experience up front, and it also gives us more power behind the curtains. For example, we now have introduced a spline filter for measuring the full length of a surface, perhaps for waviness analysis. We also have, and this is a big one, all of the ISO and ASME surface texture parameters at your fingertips. We can choose any of these parameters we'd like, and we can insert columns to break them up or spaces between the parameters to make the layout even better. So for example, right now we have column breaks setting up these parameters. If I switch to the head deck surface, and let's drag one in to make it look nice, we have parameters broken up in the columns that we've chosen. So TraceBoss Pro is that production version of TraceBoss that we can use in larger settings where perhaps we're doing many different measurements, or even in prototyping where we have a variety of different parts that may be coming across our measuring systems. So there's a lot of reasons behind the Pro. It's professional, it might be part of a prototyping process, and it's definitely part of your production process. So check out TraceBoss Pro. You'll find it at digitalmetrology.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to talk to you.